This is Dr. Garrett Smith, also known as the nutrition detective around these here YouTube parts, and we have Love Your Liver live stream number 145 in a row today. We're going to be going over a subscriber, channel subscriber Q&A. So you guys, if you have questions, if you want your question to get priority, we do give priority to the super chats, those who give a little contribution to the channel. And then if otherwise, we start at the top of the live chat and we go down in the order that the questions are asked. So if you have questions and you would like to get them answered, that's how we do it. And then also, just so you know, inside the Love Your Liver program, inside the Nutrition Detective Network, if you will, I do a private Q&A right after this. It's called the Inner Circle, and that is where people for $49.99 a month can ask me unlimited questions in a more, how do I put this? In a more controversy-friendly area. We'll say it that way. So if you got questions you want to hear the real scoop on, and I don't have to censor myself like I do on some video sharing websites, then that's where to go. We do also have a Rumble channel if you want to go there. So anyway, they haven't been uploading recently, so we're trying to figure that out. If anybody knows what's going on with that, feel free to mention it in the chat if that's a known problem. We're just looking into that now. So first, let me have a drink of my my flush niacin drink, my Niasoda Black from Kelsey. If anybody wants to post her Etsy store in the chat, go ahead. So after I did that, if you see me starting to get a little pinkish or you see me itching, that's the niacin flush. It's not scary. It's not an allergic reaction. I used to think it was, and Kelsey helped me to realize that it's not. So yes, happy live stream to you, Michael. Hello, all. So where are we going to start? You know what? I did a post this morning. Well, it was a post yesterday and a post this morning on Twitter that I thought I'd go over real quick because Kelsey came to me and she said, I think maybe we could do another special episode show on methylene blue. For those of you who this is what we're giving you today as an appetizer, okay? We're going to go over just a little bit about methylene blue. Methylene blue is like, if you guys haven't noticed, it's like the new darling of everybody. If you look in the research, it seems like it can do no wrong. People call it a magic bullet. You should immediately, your BS sensors should go up immediately if they start saying it fixes everything. It's a magic bullet. There's a book about it called Magic Bullet. So anyway, it's a textile dye. It's used to dye textiles like clothing and cloth and stuff like that. And people are just taking it, thinking that it's good for them. So what I did, let me get onto this. So I made this Twitter post. Let me get the link for you guys. It's actually 2 Twitter posts, so I'm going to go over the other one first. Xander, if you're having good luck with homeopathic detox therapy, that's awesome. I'd love to hear more about that if you want to share it there or if you want to share it in a testimonial on the network so I can use that. But so let's go down to the second, my retweet first. Where was it? Here it is. So for those of you who have not heard, the pharma cartel is working on a male contraceptive pill. So something that will basically destroy your sperm or make them, you can basically make a man infertile by making it so that the sperm don't move. Okay? So they have a male contraceptive pill. In the early ones that they where they talked about this, it would inhibit what's called ALDH. ALDH is a detox enzyme. It is, in my opinion, one of the most important detox enzymes in your body, called aldehyde dehydrogenase. And by inhibiting this, you bottleneck your vitamin A detox, you bottleneck your alcohol detox, you bottleneck your methanol detox, you bottleneck your entire aldehyde detox chain, and you will build up aldehydes. Okay, so aldehyde dehydrogenase takes aldehydes and it turns them into acids. Okay, So like retinaldehyde, the aldehyde form of vitamin A, it turns it into retinoic acid, the acid form of vitamin A. Now you can get problems from either of those. They're both toxic. Retinoic acid is probably the most toxic of them all. And I've presented studies here before that too much retinoic acid will actually slow down ALDH, and then you'll build up aldehydes, which may actually be the long-term effects of taking things like Accutane, isotretinoin, or Retin-A, tretinoin. Because when you took those, it slowed down your ALDH, possibly for a long time, until you start building up aldehydes in your system, and that may be the long-term stuff. Now, those of you who know about long-term stuff of like Accutane, tons of sexual side effects. So let's get into this. So they, as I say, they will tell you that if you don't make retinoic acid in your testes, guys, that you won't make sperm. I say you don't need it. And then I mentioned that blocking ALDH will cause you to build up retinaldehyde and other aldehydes, which are extremely toxic to sperm. This is if you block ALDH, it is well known that you will build up aldehydes. So disulfiram. Some of you may have even been duped into taking this, thinking that it was going to help your Lyme disease or whatever, or your autoimmune condition. Disulfiram, the very distinct mechanism of disulfiram is that it is an ALDH inhibitor. You can look it up. Disulfiram has been used to treat alcohol dependency and is known to dampen sperm motility. So we know that ALDH stops your sperm from moving well. Okay. So how does disulfiram stop alcohol dependence or treat alcohol dependency? Well, you have to take the pill every day. So you're asking an alcoholic to take a pill every day. That pill, if they do drink, blocks ALDH. So they build up acetaldehyde, which is what causes people hangovers and alcohol poisoning. So you basically increase the toxicity of alcohol to yourself by stopping the detox of it. Okay? It's acetaldehyde that kills you from alcohol poisoning. If somebody dies from alcohol poisoning, it was the acetaldehyde. It wasn't the ethanol. Okay. So if you do drink while you're on disulfiram, you feel even worse. Okay. So what they're telling you to do is to take this medicine to make yourself infertile, men, by building up aldehydes in your system. Okay. So let's go back to, let me scroll up here. So let's go back to methylene blue. So this is an appetizer, right? Kelsey and I are going to do a whole show on this. People have been saying, I've only heard good things about methylene blue. Magic bullet, cure for everything, only hearing good things. What do I come here to do? Let you know about the other side that they're not telling you. Okay. So I went over ALDH inhibitors and sperm motility a little bit. So the first question is, does methylene blue slow ALDH? Well, what I'm getting at is what they're going to try to get people to do, folks, is like with things like ivermectin, which has quite a bit of research showing it inhibits fertility. And with methylene blue, which I'm going to show you really has problems with infertility, they're trying to get people to do things to themselves like, oh, I don't know, pokies that make them infertile. They're getting both sides to pay to make themselves infertile. If you thought you were on the right side and you're not being duped, they're duping both sides. Okay, so here we go. Here's the quote from the paper. Methylene blue inhibited the human erythrocyte, that's red blood cells, and leukocyte, that's white blood cells, ALDHs, and the rat liver mitochondrial low Km ALDH in a concentration-dependent manner. So that means the more methylene blue they gave, the more they saw ALDHs go down. Now, those of you who have been here a while, this doesn't really matter today with what we're going over here, but the slower your ALDH or the more you suppress your ALDH, the less bile you make, which is how initially it can show improvements in symptoms, but long-term it's going to be a disaster. Okay, so we know now that methylene blue inhibits ALDH. So if we're talking about, if they're saying male contraception, they're making ALDH inhibitors. We see that methylene blue is an ALDH inhibitor. So this is what I do. I'm going to go, well, then can we find evidence of methylene blue inhibiting sperm? Let's check that out. First paper, time and dose-dependent inhibition of human sperm motility, that's sperm movement, by methylene blue was observed. So the longer they let it sit, and the more they gave, was observed, as was growth inhibition of 2-cell mouse embryos. Ladies, growth inhibition of the egg. Guys, inhibition of your sperm's ability to move. Is this sounding good? Furthermore, the presence of methylene blue in uterine, fallopian tube, and peritoneal fluids altered protein mobility in polyacromide gels. Get this. And yielded apparent values of FSH, follicle-stimulating hormone, and estradiol, estrogen. This is generally considered the bad estrogen, up to 260% of actual values. It's crazy that one of the big groups that pushes methylene blue is so anti-estrogen. And then a lot of the things they do increase estrogen. It's really, really wild. Now, the second paper. Initial mean sperm motility. So they gave the sperm motility a value 70.3% plus or minus 3%. Okay, 70.3%. That was what, so with these sperm samples they got, this was the number they gave the ability of the sperm to move. They're saying 70.3% of them were I'm guessing they're saying were moving. Undiluted methylene blue and renographin severely depressed sperm motility to 1.1% and 2.3% respectively. So undiluted methylene severely depressed sperm motility to 1.1%. 70% to 1.1%. That's infertility, I'm pretty much going to say. Now, diluted methylene blue? Not much better. Depressed motility of 4.9% and 11.2%. That sounds like a contraceptive to me. You know that to say men are, they just, with the number on sperm, to say a man is infertile, the number on sperm is not 0. It's just, I forget, it's below a certain number. It's not 0 to consider somebody infertile. So just to recap here. So this was, like I said, an appetizer. We'll go over this again in the methylene blue special episode that Kelsey and I are going to do. We were online assembling the research as we do last night for this show. But yeah, so they want to make male contraceptives by inhibiting ALDH. That's their function. We know that methylene blue inhibits ALDH. We know that methylene blue absolutely demolishes sperm motility. And then the apologists are going to be like, but it's all dose dependent. No, it is dose dependent, but these things accumulate. We'll show how it accumulates. And yeah. So we can get rid of these things. If you did it over time, we can get rid of it. But we also see that people seem to have withdrawals from methylene blue, which is a drug-like effect. And they do also kind of get like a buzz. They're talking about methylene blue as a pre-workout now. If it's a stimulant to your brain and it's not an essential nutrient, it's a drug. They call it an antidepressant. They say it's an MAO inhibitor. And that people can get serotonin syndrome from combining it with the wrong meds. Like this is bad stuff. Just wait until you see the Poison Control Center warning about not doing it. So that was just a little taste. Okay. So let's get into the questions. Sorry, I don't know if I have any charcoal on my face. I like the charcoal version, the Niacin Black. I know Kelsey makes one that doesn't have that. So let's go and look. We have a super chat from Carol. Hello, Carol. Thank you for that. Hey, Doc, I feel much better thanks to the Love Your Liver, but on carnivore, my vitiligo stopped and it is growing on LYL. I also took a little too much lactoferrin and been nauseous for a month. Charcoal no longer helps. Okay. So we always have carnivores coming out of carnivore. We've talked about this before. So were you on carnivore with organs or without? Because they are very, very different. So if you could answer that in the chat, Carol, that'd be great. Without. Okay, so you were on an all muscle meat carnivore diet. So we have to watch for vitiligo. Vitiligo is a long-term one. This is why, like, when people come off of things and they do things, vitiligo can just take a long time for detox. Vitiligo and seborrheic dermatitis. Oh, with eggs and butter. Okay, so we get into, I mean, if I don't have testing, like, I can't necessarily say what's looking, like the biggest issue is. But when people, like when Sean Baker, I think he said this on Joe Rogan, when he ate an apple on carnivore, he had challenges with his health for like 3 days. I don't think he detailed what was going on, but he said an apple like messed him up for like 3 days. So when we get into fixing the gut biome and we get into, so the fact is you're feeling better. So those are the initial things we look for. And then we're seeing this little symptom come back. This, folks, happens. That's why we talk about, like, this is not a game. This is why you need to not push things too hard. Now, Carol, I'm not saying you're doing any of these things. These are things that we troubleshoot as we go. So one of the first things, so we definitely see, so what does lactoferrin do? Okay, so let me back up. So if you folks haven't seen episodes 53 or episode 71, oh, did I forget? Well, okay. We'll get to that. So episodes 53 and 71, that's toxic bile theory. Those are the basics. So you want to understand what we're trying to do here and why certain things will make you better while potentially at the same time you get a little worse or you have symptoms return. You want to see those episodes so you understand what you've got stored inside of you in your liver and it's coming out and how it shows up. So what we're seeing for you, Carol, you took some lactoferrin and you got some nausea. So nausea, folks, is absolutely related to bile in your stomach. One of the things that I do, and then using charcoal adsorbs bile. It soaks up bile, holds onto it so you can poop it out. Charcoal is very good at helping nausea because it grabs onto the bile. Lactoferrin is very good at stimulating more bile production, as it also helps to run ALDH. There's research on lactoferrin getting ALDH to come back more towards normal. That's what we want. We don't want to try to like crank on ALDH and make it run faster, because then people will do stupid things like they take toxins because they look at the research. Like there's research out there where people are quoting it as saying caffeine speeds up xanthine oxidase. Okay. Caffeine is detoxed by xanthine oxidase. So they're taking the very thing that needs to be detoxed by the enzyme. Then they're saying, oh, we're helping detox uric acid. No, you put a toxin in there that is processed by a detox enzyme. The body replied by increasing the detox enzyme to process the toxin. And then you're thinking that's all going to be used on other detox things. No, that's not how this works. It's, as another study I've quoted before, they gave alcohol to young rats and old rats. We all know that young people tolerate alcohol better than old people. Hangovers, as an example. The young rats, they saw ALDH speed up. In the old rats, they saw ALDH slow down. Who gets worse hangovers? Old people. Old people, their ALDH under stress because they're toxic from living, their ALDH actually got used up and it went down. And what happens with older people when they drink alcohol? They get a lot worse hangovers. They just don't handle it as well. It's not good. They get a lot more damage. Nobody says that, like, drink alcohol to increase your detox, but in the young mice, it sped up ALDH. So you don't want to use toxins to speed up ALDH. So this is what we're talking about here. We want to return ALDH to normal. But like I said earlier, ALDH and bile production tend to move together. So if you do things to improve your ALDH, you're going to do things that are improving your bile production general. So you got to watch these things. This is the hard part. This is what a lot of people refuse to understand about this work. They just want something to be good for you or bad for you. How could something make you feel good and make somebody else feel bad at the same time? Because they don't understand toxic bile theory yet. So I'm not saying you don't, Carol. But lactoferrin is very strong at increasing bile production. This is why there's the whole link on the product page and on the bottle of lactoferrin saying, please read this about how to go up slowly. So I don't know what kind of dose you did, Carol, but the nausea by now, what I would say is, so folks, if first of all, I tell people with GERD, like acid reflux, do not mess with lactoferrin because it will increase your bile. You've already got the bile going into your stomach. It's gonna cause a problem. Lactoferrin in people with GERD tends to make their GERD worse. Well, why would lactoferrin increase your stomach acid? It's not, your GERD is not acid reflux, it's bile reflux. That's what it is. And what PPIs do, the proton pump inhibitors, if you go and look, they shut down bile. That's what they do. I could probably go find research on them shutting down ALDH too. So, Carol's had GERD before. Okay, so Carol, you need to be put, first of all, anybody who's had GERD. So how many places are you going to go on the internet where the guy selling the supplement is going to say, you need to not do the supplement? Why do I feel like I'm so rare? This should not be rare. But anybody who has GERD or a significant history of GERD, make the lactoferrin of all the things that you might work with in the Love Your Liver program, move it towards the end. And make sure that the reflux is completely gone before you mess with lactoferrin. Okay? So, oh yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe, everybody. Victoria reminded everybody of that in the chat. So, and don't forget to leave a comment if you're here afterwards. Remember, we're just trying to tease the little algorithm to show us to more people. So that helps. If you want to help more people to find out about this, then like and subscribe and share and all that stuff. Okay. So we have the acid reflux, the GERD reflux, the bile reflux. That's actually, somebody asked me to do a show on bile reflux and reflux of all that stuff. I will eventually. The methylene blue thing came up and I really want to hit on that because I see it everywhere. And here's a funny thing about the methylene blue is if you take enough of it, you'll start to see your skin turn blue, your mucous membranes turn blue, your saliva turn blue, your pee turn blue. Like, gosh, it's almost like your body's desperately trying to get rid of it or something. So, and if you don't see it, it means you're not turning into what's called leukomethylene blue, which is clear. But I'll save all that. I want Kelsey to go over the stuff that she knows about it from her chemistry angles, and I'll go over it from more of the detox angles. And yeah. So let's see. So we've got the GERD. First, Carol, you could be, so, okay. So as we get people better, your whole detox system the body is trying to get rid of your bile. That is where you keep all your toxins, folks. You store them in your liver. Your liver tries to get rid of them through bile, puts the bile into your intestines. That's where it's supposed to go. The intestines are supposed to poop out a part of it. They say that with a standard American diet, 95% of the bile is reabsorbed by your intestines. 5% is pooped out. Not much. So that goes right back up to your liver, and it does the whole dance again. So when people are on a no fiber carnivore diet, no fiber. Think about it. The standard American diet has some fiber in it. It may not be a lot, but it's got some. So a standard American diet is like 5% of bile is getting pooped out. So if you eat zero fiber, And soluble fiber is one of the biggest triggers of bile dumping. And people will say, but what about fat and bile dumping? Well, when you're, in a way, you're dumping the bile to absorb fat, and the fat is going to, so think about it. It's like a synergy. The fat and the bile are going to help each other reabsorb. So yes, you may dump bile, but you will also reabsorb more of that bile. So if you're on a no fiber and a high fat diet, where's your bile going? Right back up. Most carnivore dieters are not pooping that much, and they're not pooping that much in terms of volume, and they're not pooping that much in terms of frequency. So all that bile is going right back into the system. Maybe 99% of it's getting reabsorbed. Maybe 100. I don't know. Nobody does numbers on this. So when you start going, Carol, to doing more of the love your liver stuff, well, if you're going to be triggering bile dumping with soluble fiber, I'm guessing, and if we know that you've had excess bile in the stomach, then we know that it's going the wrong way. We know there's quote unquote cholestasis, bile going the wrong way. So what we would generally do is, I would say that, so if you're familiar with the agitators, actually, Chris, I forget his Twitter handle. Chris, I retweeted his agitators post on Twitter the other day. So agitators can be things that increase your bile dumping. Sunlight, heat, exercise, stress, lactoferrin, niacin, nicotinic acid can do this. Pretty much anything you're doing that is really, truly helping your health has the potential to increase somebody's bile dumping. Zinc could do it. Selenium could do it. Selenium and molybdenum are necessary to run ALDH. So if selenium and molybdenum seem to increase your bile dumping symptoms, then that's what they're doing. So anyway, you got to watch for any of those agitators, especially soluble fiber. Soluble fiber is especially the thing that people will do too much too fast at the start because they want this problem to be gone. And they think, oh, soluble fiber, it seems so innocent. It seems so like easy to eat a lot of it. You can push things too hard. You can push the accelerator too hard. Now, the other thing that can happen is what we call retracing, which is where old symptoms come back. I actually believe this is kind of like a going back through if you think of the layers of bile as kind of like toxicity layers, and you go back through them and you may see old symptoms come up as you kind of peel the layers of the onion kind of bile going backwards. We can see it. So, and if it comes and it goes very quickly with no good reason that it came and no good reason that it left, and you feel better, you were feeling better before it, you had the symptom come back, and then you feel even better after it leaves, those are signs of retracing. So that's what I got for you. If you wanted to, you could work on either on that topical area. I did a whole post on skin stuff today on Twitter. So for those of you who don't follow me on Twitter, like that's where you can get a lot of good stuff. You don't have to follow anybody. If you don't, Twitter seems too rough for you. Just go and subscribe to me, and then just go and check my posts. So that's basically, though, the skin stuff. You're going to do one of three things. I'm going to work on articles for the Love Your Liver on this because I go over this in consults way too often that I should retype it out for everybody. You're either going to do one of three things. You're going to adsorb, suck the toxins out of the area. You're going to oxidize the toxins in the area, or you're going to put nutrition into the area topically. And you can do these things internally too, but I'm talking about externally. And I'm not going to go into detail of all these today. A lot of these are in the Love Your Liver program. Hope's in the chat. She's done most of these approaches. Other people in the Love Your Liver network can give you details on how they did it and what worked best for them. But we're looking at, in terms of adsorbing, we're typically looking at topical skin applications of charcoal Topical skin applications like a colloidal oatmeal, soluble fiber. People will do colloidal oatmeal, which just means really finely ground oats in the bath to soak up stuff on their skin. You could make some sort of poultice out of charcoal or oats, or you could use psyllium husk. That's what we tend to do poultices with. We don't do flaxseed. We do equal parts charcoal and psyllium husk, and then enough water to make it into a kind of like poultice-ish, like a mask-ish. Or you can mix the charcoal with lotion, like our magnesium lotion, and put that on. So then that's adsorbing. That's soaking the toxins right out of it. Now, for anybody who tries that, if you come back and you're like, I tried it once and it didn't work, you got to do it more than once. Sorry. It doesn't just poof, go away. Then we have oxidizing. Now, there's a certain 3-letter term of an oxidizing agent that I'm not going to get into here. There's a whole section in the Love Your Liver program where I talk about this, and I lead people to some free ebooks that are available on other sites so that they can go read about it. Very controversial. I've seen it work. We have more and more people who are confirming that it works, and you can go check that out. And then third would be nutrition, putting nutrition on the area. Now, Kelsey at her Etsy store has she has a 20% zinc niacinate salve. So zinc bound to niacin. Zinc bound to niacin. 20% niacinate, zinc niacinate salve. And she has a 40% zinc niacinate salve. Now, the cool thing about these is they do actually rub in and become clear. As opposed to, let's say, one of the things we used to use was like zinc oxide base diaper rash creams, because you can get like a zinc oxide. So for those of you who are in other countries, I use the zinc niacinate. I have my kids use it if they want to use it for something. If you wanted to put some zinc on some acne or something, it's great for that. But zinc oxide, like the old lifeguards with the white, on their face, the white streaks and stuff like that, that's zinc oxide. It does not go away. It is bright white. So if you're cool with that, that's fine. But if you want something that does actually rub in and get absorbed and provides both zinc and niacin, then you're looking at Kelsey's zinc niacinate salve. And that's niacinate means nicotinic acid. So it's zinc bound to nicotinic acid. You could call it zinc nicotinate, but we're trying to move more towards zinc niacinate so people don't think it's, straight nicotine or something like that. So yeah, so this is like, so Hope just posted her daughter sprained her knee and it was really inflamed. You could see the buildup of fluid in the knee. She used an activated charcoal poultice for about a week straight, a few times each day. It's doing better now. So we can attack. We don't really want to attack our own body. So we try to get the war terms out, but you can address skin issues. First of all, you want to address it internally. So like when we're talking about charcoal externally, well, you can do charcoal internally. If we're talking about soluble fiber externally, you can do soluble fiber internally. If we're talking about oxidizing agents, you can do those internally or externally. If we're talking about zinc internally and externally, and we're talking about niacin internally and externally, you can do them both. Now, some people are finding that they're really sensitive to things orally. And I think I talked about this last episode. Maybe it was in the inner circle. But I think some people are really sensitive to things orally because it hits the first pass of the liver. It's called the first pass liver metabolism. And I think that's why it does something. Whereas if you go in through the skin, you avoid the first pass metabolism and then you can get it in. So yeah, big things for skin stuff. We talked about those things, but in terms of nutrition, I think zinc. I think, are you getting enough protein? I think nicotinic acid, niacin. Those are the three biggest things that we would look at first. And then you just want to make sure you're not overly agitating with, soluble fiber or lactoferrin or even nicotinic acid. Niacin will increase bile flow. All the things we do that are good for you can and do and will eventually increase your bile flow. So the whole idea here, folks, is that as you get better over time, Here's the weird thing. You got to wrap your head around this. As you get better over time and your body gets healthier, for those of you who are really sensitive at the start, you'll be able to take more of the agitator things. You'll be able to do more of the agitator things, like you're not so sun sensitive. You're able to start working out. You get stressed and you don't fall apart. You're able to take lactoferrin. You're able to take more niacin that you weren't able to do at the start. Actually, Chris went over this in his post on Twitter about agitators, how when he first started, he could only do like 2 or 3 of them, and now he can do all of them, and his doses are going up. So here's the weird thing. So with agitators at the start, if you're really, really toxic, your bile's really, really toxic, you have to be careful as to how much bile dumping you're pushing, or you can make yourself feel worse. This is not a game. Then as you get better, you will find that you could push them more, and some people will find that they can tolerate more. But as people get way over the hump and they get into years of doing this, as they are making bile better and better and better without having to do all these things, then they may actually, and they'll probably want to start slowing down. It's just like if you get into really good shape, those of you who have gotten into really good shape, you know that it doesn't take hardly anything to maintain. Like once you get into good shape, you don't have to do much to keep it. So the same thing is kind of true. Once you get your bile dumping going, like you can do less of these things. Now, again, which type of supplement guy on the internet is saying, oh, as you get better, you won't need as much of my stuff. They just want you to be on it forever and all of it, and as high a dose as you can take. That's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to get you the right dose for you. And that may mean none of some of them. And over time, what if you didn't need it? Like, what I'm trying to do here is teach you how to fish so that you can fish on your own, not just give you fish, not give you the magic pill. I'm here to help you avoid the magic pills that are going to ruin you. Oh, here, let me read this real quick, a little testimonial. Headwood said, I burned my lower lip the other day, had boiled some water and put it in a half-pint jar that I was about to add to nicotinic acid and mistakenly picked up that jar to drink from. Oof. He said, I applied Kelsey's topical zinc niacinate to my lip a few times over the rest of the day. It healed up completely by the end of the next day. So, zinc niacinate and zinc niacinate, zinc plus niacin, topically, you can do that. And people are finding, what we're finding is that if people are really sensitive to taking minerals orally, topically, they work better. Now, I know the first question somebody's going to say is, how much topical zinc is equivalent to a pill of zinc picolinate? And I'm like, I don't know. Nobody has that information. Nobody has it. I have no idea. I tend to stick with, here's what I know. I've looked at the research. I've looked at what people have taken on, the internet and my clients, and I've gotten feedback. And so I have a pretty good idea of how to tweak zinc doses orally. And it's easier. They come in drops or they come in pills and it's measured. Whereas like if you take a fingertip of Kelsey's zinc niacinate, how much is that? No idea. Like even with the magnesium lotion that I make, the base dose is suggested at 2 pumps a day. So you can, that's why I wanted a pump. Unlike all the other mag lotions out there, I wanted a pump so people could just be like, okay, 2 pumps is what I do. Because I'm a client too. I want it to be easy. I don't want to be like, well, I'm going to measure it in a teaspoon. No, that's a pain in the butt. So, Carol, does any of that make sense? Does any of that seem like, if you can give me a little reply in the chat if you're still around, if any of that makes sense, if you kind of can see where things might be, you could modify them. Did you see anything that you feel like you could modify based on what I told you, like things that might have stuck out that you might have been doing? I'd love to hear if there was anything that you're like, oh, it's probably that. Okay, so reducing your sun exposure. That, oh man, like, yeah, too much sun exposure, folks. I'm not against the sun. Like I just did a whole episode on sunlight. This is where people, And I'm not, Carol, you're not doing this. I'm saying this is where people will like watch my videos and they'll be like, how can he say both things? Oh, and reduce stress. Reduce exercise. Yeah. So this is just, so just know they call, okay. So she's saying reduce sun exposure, reduce stress, reduce exercise. They cause her to be nauseous. Okay. She's explaining the agitator concept to you. And you have exams currently. So more stress. Okay. Okay. This is really cool. Like, I mean, I love when people tell me that what I explain to them makes sense. And actually, didn't she say that? I don't know. She didn't say that specifically. I love when people tell me it makes sense, because then they can look at what they're doing and they can say, oh, I see now. I see the agitators. And so sun is an agitator. Stress is an agitator. Exercise is an agitator. Like, these are not, I'm not saying these are bad things. So Carol says it makes complete sense. So yes. So these are not bad things. But if you guys ever hear the bucket analogy? Like, of stress, right? So you have a big bucket and then you have the faucet going in, which is like all of your stresses, right? And there's a little spigot at the bottom of the bucket letting out water, letting out stress. So the idea is if what's coming in stress-wise is too much, and the little spigot at the bottom, or if you turn off the spigot at the bottom and you're not letting out much stress, then the bucket overflows. And you can think of the bucket overflowing as symptoms of stress. Okay, so let's just think of that like bile, right? You got too many agitators of whatever source. Sun, heat, stress. It seems like sweating is I kind of actually put sweating in there as a separate agitator. So like people who are, if you go and you do like sauna or steam room, which I do, I'm not saying not to do these. I'm saying that as you're recovering and you start making more bile, first of all, your bile is going to be less toxic, but you're also going to make more of it. That's what happens. As you get less toxic, you make more bile. And your ALDH runs faster. So you become better at detoxing, but you also dump more toxic bile. And if you're leaking it, you can leak more into the system. So it may be that, let's say before Carol had to start studying for the exams, the amount of sun she was getting was fine. The amount of exercise she was getting was fine. Her stress level was fine. This is just a theoretical. They were all fine until the exams came. And then it overflowed. And then she starts seeing symptoms come back. And like, I'm not saying she did this, but maybe she also thought, well, maybe I'm not eating enough soluble fiber. And so she tries to eat more. And then she like digs herself into a deeper hole, or she tried the lactoferrin at the wrong time and kind of dug it into a deeper hole. So once we understand these things, we can then see what is going on. Like, if I look a little tired today, I had a family member have a health issue this week. I was helping this family member to call orthopedic specialists this morning to get help. So like, that's why I was late. And that's why I didn't sleep great. Okay. It's life. Like anybody, if you all out there, anybody out there who wants their health expert to look like a Hollywood star, you've been psyoped into thinking that like everybody looks perfect all the time and that the smartest people are also the best looking. Does that usually happen? Oh, wait, no. It seems like nature has to put attributes into certain areas because nobody gets all the attribute points in all the categories all at once. Anyway, so let me look here. Let's get to the next super chat. Okay, so I hope that helped, Carol. I hope that helped all of you guys understand agitators. I think I explained agitators pretty well, but if anybody finds Chris's post on agitators, Will, you might have seen it, that I retweeted. If you want to put that link in the chat, I can go over it a little bit, or I could put up the link. So, okay. Dylan says, if nicotinic acid raises NAD+, wouldn't we be able to create more ATP from glucose? Why do so many people see a spike in blood glucose after taking it? So that, I kind of went over that, I think, an episode or two ago in one of the testimonials, the one from Maria. The increase in blood glucose that you see. Well, first of all, you got to watch. I don't know if I have a video here. I think I need to do a video on diabetes and blood sugar. I think I did one on vitamin A and diabetes. But the glucose things that they love to scare everybody about. First of all, if they're ever talking about niacinamide or nicotinamide, we just throw all that research away. Niacinamide, nicotinamide is a waste product. It's something that the body tries to recycle into NAD, but it's not what we want to use. You don't want to use niacinamide. You don't want to use nicotinamide. You don't want it. So we throw out anything on that. Then we have the short term, the glucose studies that you see where blood glucose goes up are short term. They're not long term. The longer term studies on blood sugar with nicotinic acid eventually show that blood sugars come down. A very key concept that we go over here is that if you want everything to be just perfect and move right in the right direction from the start, like if you said, I have high blood sugars and I want them to come down, okay, right away. Okay, so what can you do for those? You can do drugs or herbs that suppress blood sugar, whatever that's doing. And then what you tend to see over time is you tend to see the blood sugars, they go down at the start. Sorry, I'm trying to like look at myself on the screen. They go down at the start, and then eventually they go up. And then the same old thing doesn't work anymore because it was suppressing something the body was doing just to get the blood sugars down, and then the body will compensate or get damaged, and then it loses control again later. We only care about long-term. We only care about long-term. However, what we've seen here, and I've had multiple people have this with multiple different labs, is at the start, as when we are truly fixing the problem, deeper, not just superficial, the labs often look a little worse at the beginning. And then over time, they get better. That's truly fixing the problem. Like everybody freaks out. Oh my gosh, your liver enzymes went up a little bit. And the person's like, but I feel better in like 10 different ways. And they're like, but your liver enzymes. Liver enzymes are like how hard your liver's working. The way I look at it is how hard your liver's working. If you're doing a lot of dumb things, a lot of toxic things, and your liver's working really hard, that makes sense, right? But if we're doing a lot of things that are not toxic and we're taking in less toxins and we're putting in more nutrients and your liver starts fixing itself, would your liver not also have to work hard to do that? Is spring cleaning easy, or is spring cleaning a tiring pain in the butt? Well, there you go. It's not fun while you do it, but then all of a sudden things are cleaner, but it took more effort and it also took more cleaning supplies like nutrients. So detox requires more nutrients too. So if people don't put those in, if they don't know what they are, or maybe their diet isn't adequate, but they're just like anti-supplement types, they're like, I'm just going to do it all with food. Well, you're stuck with that too. If that's the choice you make, you're stuck with the consequences of the choice of you're not going to do supplements. Then you have no way of getting more zinc, let's say, without eating a crap load more meat. That's just how it is. That's the thing that supplements can do, is they can bolster the food. They can make the food that you're eating have more zinc in it without having more food. Does that make sense? That's why we take supplements with food, is we are trying to improve the food. Oh, actually, this quick question from Laura. She was saying, do you still say not to take zinc at the same time as nicotinic acid, as was in the required reading for nicotinic acid? Zinc picolinate, correct. Kelsey has a zinc niacinate liquid that for oral use or topical, you can use it however you want. But she has a zinc nicotinate liquid. We are working on a Keystone Minerals now. We're going to have 2 versions of Keystone Minerals. No, they're not out yet. No, I don't know the date they're coming out. Don't email Julie asking her. Don't ask me. I don't know. I've never had so much difficulty in dealing with companies in my life as I've had in the supplement field. Some of you may be familiar with this. Oh my gosh. but we're going to have a zinc picolinate version of Keystone Minerals. We're going to have a zinc niacinate version of Keystone Minerals. They're both in process right now. So, but zinc picolinate, okay. I'm going to make this a little easier for some of you. And this is something new, so it's not something that you guys missed. Like last night, I was going to bed. I'd had my food. It was getting close to bed, and I said, you know what? I want to do my flush, so I'm going to do my flush niacin. And I've got my... I had a personal stash of Keystone Minerals, so I still have Keystone Minerals. I know it's not for sale right now because we're out, but I sell it. I had some left, sorry. And I was like, well, wait. I need my Keystone Minerals. I take 2 of them a day most days. I'm not recommending that for everybody, but that's what I do. And I had Kelsey's Niasoda Black, which is what I take when I don't want to mix I don't want to do the like wizard potion mixing of like 8 different things. So yeah, Kelsey's stuff is awesome because it's easy. I'll do both. I'll do my niacin, I'll do my sun fiber, I'll do my buffer, I'll do whatever other powder I might be adding that day. And a little wizard's potion, and it fizzes because I put the hot water in and all that stuff. Sometimes I don't want to do that. Before bed is one of those times. So you're listening to the guy who, wrote the program here. I said I wanted to do the niacin for sure. But I also want to do my Keystone Minerals. And we're normally try to separate them by an hour or 2. Well, how much zinc do you absorb from supplements if you don't take it? 0. How much niacin do you absorb from a flush drink if you don't take it? 0. Might the niacin and the picolinate, the picolinic acid in the zinc picolinate, kind of try to compete for receptors? Sure. Okay. What if it was 50% less effective? I take a whole flush. I take my 2 Keystone Minerals. Let's say just throwing this out there, picking a number. Let's say it's 50% less effective. Oh, I got 50% effectiveness. Is that better than 0? Yeah, it's better than 0. So I took them at the same time. Was it the end of the world? No. Did I still flush? Yes. Did I still get zinc in me? Yes. Do I have any idea of how much effectiveness I lost? No. Was it optimal? No. Perfection is the enemy of good. Do good. You're never going to do perfect. So that's what I did last night. I said, well, screw it. We're just going to take... I drank my Keystone Mineral pills with my flush drink. That's how little I cared at that time. And here we go. Now this morning, I had my breakfast and I took the Keystone Minerals with it, and then I waited about an hour or an hour or 2, and then I'm having this. So this morning I did better. That's all you can do the next day, right? You can just do better. So optimally is to separate niacin from zinc picolinate by 1 to 2 hours based on Kelsey's recommendations. If you just are absolutely like, I got to get in my zinc picolinate and I got to get in my flush niacin drink, and can I take them at the same time because I messed up earlier in the day? Go ahead. It's not the end of the world. It's just less effective. Less effective does not mean not effective. Okay, so hopefully that helps, Laura. That is the down low on it. So, and Kelsey, who I trained Kelsey on the seminar stuff that on the hair and blood analysis seminar stuff that we do, and Kelsey specifically said in the seminar herself, she said, I got to remember that perfection is the enemy of good. Like, we all have this, especially in the health field, right? Everybody's like, optimal, optimize. And it's like, that's not real life. And that gets you into like analysis paralysis. And then you don't do things because it's not optimal. Don't do that. As I was taught in naturopathic medical school, one of the doctors said, pills you don't take can't help you. It was as simple as that. Because I was asking him about taking this at this time or in the morning or at night or whatever. And he's just like, if you make it too complicated for people, they'll freeze up. They won't take anything, or they'll forget it all the time, or they'll forget, oh, you tell them to take it 3 times a day, and then they'll forget 2 of them all the time. Then it's like, well, why don't you just take them all in the morning then? So you don't mess up. If you always do it in the morning and you mess up the other 2 times, then always do all of it in the morning. Now, that said, now I know a lot better. Pills that you take that are bad for you or toxic or slow your detox are bad for you. So like as an example, this same person they formulated some of Thorne's detox multivitamins. This detox multivitamin, you were supposed to take 12 of them a day. A multivitamin with 12 pills a day. There was lots of girls, especially ladies, women, who came into the clinic and they were on his shift and they'd try to take his multi and they actually vomited it up. And I would take it and I would get nauseous. And I'd eaten before. I knew to eat. But people were like getting nauseous and vomiting the stuff up. And I'm going, damn, if I'm throwing it up, or if I'm getting nauseous and these girls are throwing it up, like, what is in this? Why are our bodies rejecting it? And then now I know, oh, there's turmeric in it. There's green tea in it. There's tons of copper in it. There's tons. Oh my gosh. Terrible, terrible stuff. I wouldn't put it on my worst enemies. I mean, maybe I would. If they were like, copper's good for you, I'd be like, here, take these. Show me. Have some more vitamin. I think there was like 20 or 25,000 or 30,000 units of vitamin A in those pills. So, Joe, you can bring up that other super chat. Okay. So Dylan says, on your heart disease live stream, you mentioned binders as being beneficial, but I think you didn't have time to get into it. I haven't been able to find that much. Can you go over that? Well, some of it may be indirect. Were you talking specifically about soluble fiber or charcoal, or which? Or did I not say? Let me see. Let me see what I can find. I swear they're trying to kill us. Joe, you can show this if you want. Therapeutic aspects of carbon monoxide in cardiovascular disease. So see, I look up activated carbon, and this is the first result. They're going to give people carbon monoxide. They also talk about giving people hydrogen sulfide. They're known to be toxic. And then they're like, oh no, maybe we could just give them in certain situations. Oh, like methylene blue. Oh, like, oh my gosh, they're trying to kill us. Carbon monoxide in a change of heart. A history of carbon monoxide and cardiotoxicity. Let's just see if I think I'm going to have to go to PubMed. I don't think there's going to be anything here. But Joe, you can take this off for a sec. So let me just go see, because they don't use the word charcoal too much on PubMed. I might have to go to one of the charcoal sites. But the other thing to remember, this is actually an important thing about some of the things we have to connect. Like, we know that activated carbon, also known as activated charcoal, grabs onto bile. We know that vitamin A and copper are in bile. If we see that, we like the study on the aortic valve, where they gave rats, I think, vitamin A, and they saw the aortic valve calcify. Well, so we know that if we're removing vitamin A and bile from the body, then we're going to see, we have to connect them that way. Because they're not exactly Poisoning with antidepressants using activated charcoal. Wow, what a coincidence. You know what I'll have to look up? I wonder if activated charcoal soaks up methylene blue. That would be an interesting coincidence. And then the other thing, like I've talked to people about, like with soluble fiber. So fiber is a tricky subject because, as we've talked about, the amount of bile actually that gets into the intestines is what triggers you to poop or not. Enough bile has you pooping right. Not enough bile in your intestines, you're constipated. Too much bile in your intestines, you got diarrhea. So fiber, soluble fibers particularly, can soak up, adsorb bile. So let's say they're trying to do research on fiber. They're just going to do research on fiber. And you have people who come into it who are more towards being constipated. They're not getting enough bile in their intestines. The soluble fiber comes through, soaks up what bile they have, so it doesn't trigger the intestines as much. They get more constipated. You have the people with diarrhea, and they start getting more soluble fiber, and let's say it's soaking it up more than it's triggering the dump, and they feel better. So I've seen fiber studies where if the people had any negative reactions to the fiber at all, they kicked them out of the study. And so all of a sudden, what did they get at the end of the study? They got amazing results. That's not a good study. So you'll have the people who look at fiber, especially like the carnivore types, and they'll look at the studies that showed that fiber was bad. And then you have, like, I don't know, the vegans, because plant foods are where you get the fiber from. They'll be like, fiber is amazing. And they'll look for all the studies that show that. Now here I am in the middle going, it depends on your bile situation. So finding fiber studies in cardiovascular stuff where we're trying to find a specific pattern, it can be mixed, and that's where people don't always understand how this toxic bile theory works. Guess I've already done. Did I already do this search? Looked like I did. But see, like I just said, like if you feel worse with fiber, what am I going to tell you to do? Am I going to tell you to push through it? No, I'm not going to do that. Chia seeds, well. Let's go look at this one. Oh, you can show this, Joe. Yeah. You can show this. So, okay, they're gonna do the cholesterol claim, which I don't want to get into that. Cholesterol is a marker of detox. It's what your body's trying to do. So if you got a bunch of LDL actually binds retinol esters. It binds retinol, vitamin A. So LDL is Grant Genereux himself said once that he thought LDL would be one potential marker of somebody's level of vitamin A toxicity. I said that very carefully for a reason. One potential marker. So if you look at your LDL and you're like, my LDL is fine, that doesn't mean you don't have other ones. You could have all your labs look perfect and be completely vitamin A toxic in your liver, and go, and then people have that, and then they go on the vitamin A detox diet, and they're like, oh my gosh, my symptoms are going away, but my labs look perfect. And it's like, this is why they call it silent liver disease. It's silent. That silent means the doctors don't see it on labs. If somebody comes to me and they're like, my liver enzymes are fine, I'm like, okay, that's nice. But if your liver enzymes have ever been out of range, then you guaranteed have a liver problem, which is cholestatic, which is toxic leaky bile. How do you think those liver enzymes got into your blood? How did the liver enzymes leak into your bloodstream? Because, right, the liver dumps bile, and the bile leaked back into your bloodstream. And then in the research, it will talk about liver enzymes being related to cholestatic diseases. But having normal liver enzymes doesn't mean you're out of the loop. Just like having a normal blood vitamin A doesn't mean you're not toxic. because it's all about what's going on at the liver. Liver disease is often called silent. Like we were talking about GERD earlier, people could have a cough and no other symptoms of reflux. And yet, if we treat it like it's bile in the stomach, their cough gets better. Look up silent reflux. Subclinical. They love that term. So, I don't care about this link. What do we have here? This doesn't look like a useful study either. So in terms of binders, I don't know what I said. I don't recall off the top of my head, but what we are trying to do is to get this bile out. And by doing that, one of the ways we do it, we want the right amount of soluble fiber for people, and if they're going to do charcoal, the right amount for them. Just like we were talking about agitators, soluble fiber is an agitator. So if people get too much soluble fiber, they could feel worse. They could dump too much bile and get more symptoms. They could make themselves more constipated. We could see issues. So if you're out there, there's one big name person on Twitter. They're decently big on Twitter, who tried to blame their year of eating beans for all of their they were basically doing meat and beans, and they blamed all the beans. And I was like, how many times do I have to say in the program that if you don't feel good on beans, stop eating them, eat something else? But no, it's the copper in the beans. And yet this person never got a copper test to demonstrate anything. If you ever hear anybody out there talking about vitamin A detox and they don't have numbers, what are they doing? Serum retinol, at least do that. It's not a great number, but at least demonstrate that. It's not expensive. So, let's see. Lennart said, "Hey, Dr. Smith, please bring back the mustache." I might. I'll tell you, my kids like the beard better, and my girlfriend likes the beard better. So what am I going to do? I don't really care. I like the mustache, though. I do. I'm just not, it's not worth fighting for. I'm kind of like, but I do like it. So, okay. Let me go look. Okay. So I see your comment. So I'm sorry. Let me say this. Thank you, Carol, for the super chat, if I forgot to say it earlier. And thank you, Dylan, for the super chat. I don't know if I'm trying to think. I mean, part of the binders thing, like, okay, so here's where it's going to be hard to find binder research, is because like modern medicine and science doesn't understand bile. And so they're not going to be like, wait, how do we get, why is getting rid of the bile helping? Because they're like, bile is good and necessary. And I mean, of course it's necessary. You need it, but you want it gone because it's like your liver's poop. The more you get rid of your liver's poop, so you can get rid of more liver's poop without leaking the liver's poop into your bloodstream or your stomach, that's better for you. So let's look here. So I got 2 super chats, Dylan. Thank you for that. I think we got all that. Okay, so we got Zendog. Zendog says, papers on how the carnivore diet messes with the gut microbiome. Love your liver question for Laura. There's not a lot of papers that I know of. I mean, let me go look. Let me first go look at. Not going to be much there. Hold on. Well, let's go look at these. Now, I didn't pick these beforehand, so I don't know what we're getting into, but the gut microbiome influences host diet selection behavior. Your gut microbiome will influence what you choose. Like, let's say, if a person had been a very strict carnivore and their gut biome had adjusted to that, and then they put things down in their gut like, oh, I don't know, soluble fiber that then start feeding their gut microbiome in a different way, and they don't feel good. And they go, I want only meat because that's what makes me feel good. That's what makes me feel good. But then you start going, but didn't you used to tolerate carbs or plant foods? And they're like, yeah, but now I don't. And you go, well, what'd you screw up? What'd you mess up? Because you messed up something. You're less resilient now. It's not like you don't want to be like the vegans who I heard about in med school who were like saying that the women were saying their periods had stopped because they were so clean that they didn't need to detox anymore. And my friend went to their parties, like vegan and raw vegan parties, and he's like, oh my God, everybody there is just farting all the time. Maybe some of you have been host to that. It was like when I was doing the raw primal diet and I was going around looking for all these healthy people at these meetings, and like these women had gained like 50 to 100 pounds since they'd been doing the raw primal diet, the eggs and the milk and the meat and the liver and oh my goodness, and the honey. Like the women got gigantic, especially. The guys seemed to do okay. But then also when I went to the Weston Price convention in like 2010, and I was expecting to see all these wonderfully healthy people there, and I didn't. So, but anyway, the people in the Candida world will say this. They'll be like, the Candida is hungry. It wants to feed. What's feeding your gut microbiome? Your bile. Your bile is determining what you put on your guts. The bile is going in there and coating your guts. Every meal of the day, you dump bile. Your bile is the consistent thing on your gut lining every day. Your bile is what causes leaky gut. Okay. Here we show that germ-free mice, so what they do is they nuked their guts with antibiotics first. Colonized by gut microbiota from 3 rodent species with distinct foraging strategies, differentially selected diets that varied in macronutrient composition. So they gave these mice the ability to choose different foods. Okay, specifically, we found that herbivore conventionalized mice voluntarily selected a higher protein to carbohydrate ratio diet. That's interesting. While omnivore and carnivore conventionalized mice selected a lower protein to carbohydrate ratio. Well, I was expecting them to go deeper into like the biome. You know what I mean? Like if they made them a carnivore conventionalized, I would have expected them to pick a higher protein to carbohydrate ratio. See, that's the assumption, right? Even I thought that. And then it's the opposite. So are they trying to balance something out? Interesting. Finally, herbivore conventionalized mice exhibited larger intestinal compartments associated with microbial fermentation. I don't know how they're measuring them, but that couldn't it just be bloating? Fermentation, making carbon dioxide, bloating. It doesn't mean only eat meat. It means try to find the plant foods that you tolerate and don't eat more soluble fiber than you tolerate. These are not that hard concepts, but for some people out there, they refuse to listen to me. Oh, the other thing I forgot to mention, Carol, if you're having a lot of stress, for any of you guys out there who are having a lot of stress, the two electrolytes I tend to think of to help with stress, magnesium and potassium. Make sure you are getting your magnesium and potassium that work for you, the types and the amounts, whether it's foods or supplements or both. Those are what I kind of call like the stress minerals, potassium and magnesium. And I got videos on both of them, I think, out here. So, Dylan, I hope I got to your questions enough. Let me look at that other one for Zendog here. Diet rapidly and reproducibly alters the human gut microbiome. I mean, so if the first thing you're trying to do to fix your gut is not changing your foods, you should do it. Let me just go here. Let me see if they have it under leaky gut. Oh, here, let me put these links in there. Sorry, I didn't do the link. So here is this is that they change their diet with the gut microbiome they're induced with. And this one is the diet rapidly and reproducibly alters the human gut microbiome. So actually, why don't we go here again? Let's go look at this real quick. The animal-based diet increased the abundance of bile-tolerant microorganisms and decreased the levels of firmicutes that metabolize dietary plant polysaccharides. What you feed grows more. What you starve grows less. So this is why those of you who are, let's say, carnivores, and you used to tolerate, like Sean Baker saying, I ate an apple and it messed him up for 3 days. His gut microbiome was not ready for that because he'd starved it. Those of you who are on like super low oxalate diets, you actually have oxalate breaking down bacteria in your guts. If you starve them too much, this is what we see with oxalate people. When they really, really go low oxalate, they feel better from going lower, but over time they get more and more sensitive to oxalates. Are you seeing the pattern here? What you don't feed starves. And what did a lot of the oxalate people who came over to the vitamin A diet get? Over time, they found that they could tolerate more oxalates. If you're on a diet that continues to make you have to get stricter and stricter and stricter and stricter and stricter, you're not going the right direction. Yeah, Joe, you can show this. Yeah. Let me put this one here. You want to gain more resilience. Like, it's so funny on Twitter, I was talking about milk, and oh man, the milk lovers. I mean, they talk, there's papers out there about milk and addiction. Like people, like it's like so you start talking bad about coffee, like people will attack you. People were like asking me if I was actually really like Scandinavian or white because how could I be against milk? And I was just like, these addictive things, like it's like your gut biome's like, hey, keep feeding me. Let's look here. When people get really mad about something, like they're usually there's a good chance, like when we're talking about foods, there's a good chance they're addicted to it. And when you think about chocolate, when you think about coffee, when you think about milk, some of those liver people, oh my goodness, or the eggs people, wow, they get angry. In concert, these results demonstrate the gut microbiome can rapidly respond to altered diet, potentially facilitating the diversity of human dietary lifestyles. If you eat a mixed diet, you'll probably have a mixed biome. If you eat an overly unbalanced diet, you will have an overly unbalanced biome. If you continue to eat something that doesn't agree with you, you're going to feel not good. This is why we don't do a protocol. Let me see if I can find I think it may be, they may have used the word permeability. I think they did. Let's do. Where's the paper? If anybody has the, oh, there. Let's see if this is the paper. Bile acids, intestinal barrier dysfunction, and related diseases. Bile acids interact with bile acid receptors or gut microbiota, which plays a key role in maintaining the homeostasis of the intestinal barrier. Maintaining the homeostasis of the gut barrier, that's called leaky gut. So, in this review, we summarize and discuss the recent studies on bile acid disorder associated with intestinal barrier dysfunction and related diseases. I thought I'd... Oh, the screen. Sorry, here it is. The reason why leaky gut protocols don't work. Haven't all of us done leaky gut protocols? Oh, let me see what you let me see what Will put up. Is this the agitators thread, Will? Yeah. Well, wait, there's that. No, it was shoot, that wasn't it. Hold on. What was it? What did I say to him? I said, hold on, I'm going to find this. I want to find this for you guys now. Since Will put some time into it. Twitter's search engine is just the worst. How can it be so bad? Let's see if I called it a great thread. Okay, I don't think I'm going to find it. Dang it. Okay, so were there any more super chats, or should I start on the... No problem, Will. Thank you for looking. Eve, just a quick question here. How do you get the sulfur out? You're much better not eating it for months. Generally, the big things with sulfur, the biggest thing is molybdenum. We tend to use molybdenum glycinate or sodium molybdate, but I think the molybdenum glycinate is probably better. Yeah, Xander, if you can't do beans or bananas, then don't. It's very simple. Find other foods within the framework that do work for you. So, okay, so I'm looking up here at the questions. see what else I can find up here or comment on. Marissa's excited she's here and wants me to do a show on methylene blue. Like somebody on Twitter specifically said, like, I was starting to wonder because nobody is. Oh, there it is. Okay, so Susan, I'll get to your question. But he was like, nobody is saying anything negative about methylene blue. Nobody. And here I come. I'm like, here's the stuff. Imagine you guys who know Kelsey's research on niacin, you put Kelsey and I together on a topic, we're going to find stuff. It's really cool meeting somebody who is as adept at searching as I like to think I am. And Kelsey is that. So it's pretty fun. There it is. Okay. So yeah. Thank you, Susan. So you say, when I take low-dose nicotinic acid, you need extra molybdenum, selenium, folinic to feel right. That's a really interesting combination. I'll go over that. Weak muscles, fatigue, tension, mental and physical, worried about amount of molybdenum needed. Any reliable way to check? Well, is there a reliable way to check? I mean, that we do the hair test is how I check molybdenum and selenium. B vitamin blood tests are mainly showing you what your B vitamin intake was the day before. So they don't really give you, I mean, they're water soluble, and the body seems to really try to pee a lot of them out really fast, which is really interesting. If they were so desirable, why does the body pee them out so fast that you can smell and see them in your urine? You know what I mean? Same thing with like methylene blue, where you can see it blue in your pee if you take enough, or your saliva. And you start, some of the big symptoms are nausea. Where's that bile going? Well, what I would say with the low-dose nicotinic acid first is, if oral's not working, or oral is causing, I mean, so if you, I got to ask questions. I hope you're still here, Susan. You used to get yellow pee from B2 until you started nicotinamide riboside. Interesting. I don't have a lot of experience with nicotinamide riboside, but Kelsey tends to, believe that nicotinic acid does the NAD job better and less expensively and more efficiently than everything else. And the research she's shown me always backs up what she says. So, but yellow, so that's interesting with B2. So you say the strongly yellow pee from B2 went away when you took nicotinamide riboside. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, I'll get to that. But Susan, if you can answer that. So B2 makes pee very yellow, folks. So if you didn't know, B2 is what you take in the B complexes that makes your pee really yellow. Okay, so you're saying, yes, a miracle mitochondrial function. So you're saying, Susan's saying, I like nicotinic acid even better, but I do have strong reactions. Well, then I would say we're either going to adjust your dose down, or it may just be for a while. It may just be you're trying to find the minimal. Oh, your lifelong migraines went away. Well, wait, was that from nicotinamide riboside, or was that from nicotinic acid? I'm assuming these were in the past, and nicotinic acid is doing a similar thing now. Let me know when you're saying these things happen. Give me a timeline. After you started the B2. Okay. So the thing about what you said in terms of your comment, Susan, so cofactors for ALDH, you need selenium for it. You need molybdenum for it. I'm beginning to believe that you need a certain amount of folate for it. because now they have like, what did they, I think I saw the other day, folate dehydrogenases or something like that. I think you need a certain amount for folate for it, and then NAD from nicotinic acid is the gasoline to run it. Okay, so she was saying nicotinamide riboside 6 months, then tried B2 again, no yellow pea, no migraines after 3 months. Niacin works the same. Okay, so if you stop taking the B2, do the migraines come back now? Or is the B2 effect basically gone? Like you don't need it anymore? So we'll just wait for your response on that. You're down to 2 weekly for the past 6 months and okay. Okay. So this is one of those things where with Susan and the B2, it may be that, so I would tend to think of the B2 as more of an antidote. It's kind of helping something along the way. Like you should not need mega doses of B vitamins. I'm not saying this to you, Susan. I'm saying people in general, if they were healthy, they shouldn't need mega doses of B vitamins. Like when you look at B complexes on the back of them, they are insane doses. And people who don't think they're insane doses are like deluded by the supplement world. So taking a drug-like dose of a B vitamin is an antidote. And if we are getting people better, we should see that eventually they don't need the Band-Aid or the crutch. Susan continues to come down on the B2. That's what we want to see. That is the sign that we are moving in the right direction. So that's very good. The nicotinic acid issue here, really what we would be looking for is what we call the minimal effective dose. I'll have to come up with a term for this next part. But we want the most you could take, Susan, that gives the most benefits with the fewest negatives. And only you could determine that. If you get a lot of benefits and you get some negatives and you're like, well, as we say, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is the benefits worth the negatives? But this only is true for folks like stuff that we tend to use. We don't use this with non-essential nutrients or pharmaceuticals or whatever. I mean, we can kind of use it. Like, let's say somebody was somebody's messing around with their thyroid hormone. And they're like, well, if I take too much, I get these symptoms. But if I do this much, I feel better, but I don't get the hyper symptoms, but I'm a little more tired. Well, then we go, only you can choose. Do you want the excess or do you want a little bit less? As we're moving people along, we want to get to less. Is the juice? Yeah, Zendog says, let's call it is the juice or a juice worth the squeeze dose? Yeah, minimal effective dose, juice worth the squeeze dose. We want the minimal number of, I hate to use the term side effects. Susan says, folinic acid is really important for me. I have secret sources now. It's prescription. Yes. We will try to figure out some way to help people get folinic acid. But because it's prescription, we may have to have people jump through some hoops to do that. It is a B vitamin, so prescribing it off label shouldn't be a huge deal. Here was a funny thing while we're on the topic of the interesting things. So one of the people in the Love Your Liver program, he works for a company that deals in, one of the things they deal in is chemotherapy. I've had pharmacists come to me. I've had MDs come to me. The pharmacist once came to me and he's sitting there and he's like, I said, well, that's got to be tough, doing what you do all day and then believing in what we do is going to help you. And he's like, he kind of jokingly, but not jokingly, he said, I hate my life. And I was like, ow, that hurts. Like to work in a field where you don't agree with it health-wise, it's got to be really tough. And for those of you who are doing it, I understand, and I'm sure you're all probably looking for another option that works for you so that you can be in alignment. But he was saying that, so get this. This is what we talk about duration paradox, right? He says if they don't, like even to transfer chemotherapy from bottle to bottle, you have to have like all of these safety things going on, all of, the hoods and the vents and like so everything. You have to have all these things to protect the people doing the transfer. Get this, because he said, if you don't protect them enough, they'll get cancer. Wait, chemotherapy gives people cancer? Wow, how interesting. Like, cancer is the biggest racket of them all. Susan asked, is hair test molybdenum a good indicator? Yes. But it depends on which lab you get, because some of them go by parts per million or micrograms per gram. Those are the same numbers. And some of them, like TEI and ARL, go by milligram percents, which is basically you take parts per million and divide it by 10. So they're just different by a factor of 10, depending upon which lab you get. But yeah, hair molybdenum, I want hair molybdenum on a TEI test or an ARL test. I want it between 0.004 and 0.008. That's where I want it. But molybdenum can be interesting. So, but that's generally what we want. And nearly everybody's deficient. I mean, I hardly run into anybody who comes in and they're good on it. So, okay, Susan said, great, thanks. There's a good lab, CanAlt in Canada. We tested against recommended US labs and got the same readings. Okay, awesome. That's really good. It's always nice when, labs repeat, right? As they're saying science has a replication crisis right now because they either can't replicate the old studies or they're getting like totally opposite results. Kind of weird. It's almost like something may have been corrupt. You should see, Kelsey got me a paper yesterday. I think it was called The Limitations of Cod Liver Oil in Rickets. We have a PDF copy of it. It was the biggest propaganda nonsense BS piece. In the paper, they're basically showing, cod liver oil didn't really prevent rickets, but you should still recommend it. Oh my goodness. The worst. I'm probably going to do a post on that on Twitter because it's just awful. Okay, so Gabriel says mainstream non-invasive tests that can show intrahepatic cholestasis. I need proof so my cardiologist will believe me that my heart symptoms are secondary. The mainstream non-invasive tests that the most obvious one or ones would be serum bile acids. Well, I'll show you the ones from LabCorp. Let me pull this up. So LabCorp. Bile. Okay. So this is labcorp.com. This is the big lab in the US. So, who was it that I was talking to? Oh, Gabriel. I just wanted to get your name right. So we're looking here. Obviously, urine bile is not going to show you, it's not going to show you intrahepatic cholestasis most likely because it's just showing the bile that comes out in your urine, which means it's bile. Well, I mean, trying to show intrahepatic specifically. Well, let's just talk about this. As far as I know, there is no way to determine, intrahepatic cholestasis from extrahepatic cholestasis. I could be wrong. So we don't want the urine bile. We don't want this one. I mean, we can look to see, yeah, this is just detect the presence of bilirubin in urine, evaluate the presence of biliary and liver disease. So they're just saying that your liver's leaking bile, right? They don't say intrahepatic here. So here we have bile acids. Now, this is blood bile acids. Total bile acids. Sorry, this one. Okay. So, glyco and tauroquinodeoxycholic acid. So, what do we know about these? These are what are called conjugated bile acids. The conjugation of bile acids happens in the gut by the gut biome. So, if you have a lot of conjugated bile acids in your blood, then you would have extrahepatic cholestasis because they had to get to your intestines to be conjugated, to be absorbed in the leaky gut, to go back up into your bloodstream to show up in the blood. Does that make sense? So this should not have anything to do with intrahepatic cholestasis. Yeah, here we go. Evaluate the enterohepatic cycle. So gut to liver, consisting of the biliary system, intestine, portal circulation, and liver cells. So that's basically, that will be that one. This is going to show more extrahepatic. So outside of the liver. So some of you may be wondering, what is extrahepatic versus intrahepatic? Intrahepatic means that the bile is leaking into the bloodstream directly from either the liver cells are leaking it directly and it's going to the bloodstream, or the little teeny tiny bile ducts that are inside the liver are leaking the bile, and that's going right into the bloodstream. Once the bile has come out of the liver into the common bile duct that goes to your intestines, if it leaks after that point, that is considered extrahepatic or outside the liver. Okay? So you would need non-conjugated bile acids to show extrahepatic. So this is Gabriel, fractionated bile acids and total bile acids. Oh, sorry. Here we go. And if anybody wants to get these tests done, you can. We can do that. You can do them through us. Just email Julie, admin@nutritiondetective.com. We can order any labs you want. If you want to get labs through LabCorp, that's who we go through. So if you want labs through anybody else, don't. Just because you order labs from us does not mean you're getting them analyzed and feedback from them. You're just ordering labs. And we would get the results and then we'd send them to you. So let's look here. Where was it? Where's the list of bile acids that they do? Come on. Here we go. Cholic acid, quinodeoxycholic acid, deoxycholic acid, and ursodeoxycholic acid. Oh, I can zoom in. Sure, Joe. Here we go. This would be the intrahepatic. Or wait. Now here we go. This assay quantifies the free acids, glycine conjugate, and taurine conjugate forms of cholic acid, quinodeoxycholic acid, deoxycholic acid, and ursodeoxycholic acid. So let's go look at the report, because like I said before, if they're looking at free acids like cholic, quinodeoxycholic, deoxycholic, and ursodeoxycholic, and they combine that with the glycine conjugated of these and the taurine conjugated of these, then they're showing a mix. So let's go look at the report. Wait, where was it? I saw the link. I saw the link. There it is. Sample report. Yeah. So they're showing a mix. So this is both a mix of unconjugated and conjugated, like they just said. This would be, Gabriel, your best indicator if you were trying to show. I mean, if I were you, I would run serum bile acids, the one we talked about before, and I would run bile acids fractionated. I would run all of them that you could. I would run a bilirubin. I would run liver enzymes, AST, ALT, GGT. Yeah. That's, I would get anything you can related to, that we know is bile. I think, here, let's do this. Let's just go see if this is like this seems to just show, again, liver enzymes don't show us everything. Normal GGT cholestasis, normal liver enzyme cholestasis, toxic leaky bile. There it is. Unpublished cousin of a previously described family with intractable itching, pruritus is a big... Oh, sorry. Here we are. This is the paper. Let me get the link. So normal GGT cholestasis. So they're saying you can have bile duct pathology and normal GGT while you're toxically leaking, you're leaking toxic blood into your bloodstream. This is why we cannot go by AST. We cannot go by ALT. We cannot go by GGT. We cannot go by, and then they put these ranges. So when you look here, like their normal range for total bile acids. Sorry, let me share this one now. So they're saying as long as your total bile acids are under 9.2, they've decided that you're okay. Sam was saying, Kelsey, can you research why lutein wrecks people so bad? I mean, the best place you could start, Sam, I would say, there's a thing out there called Sarah's diet. I think if you search, I think it's no H, Sarah, SARA apostrophe S, Sarah's diet. I think if you search on the network and make sure you're searching all the spaces, search engines are so terrible within websites. But if you search within the spaces, I think you'll find, within all the spaces, I think you'll find some of the stuff on Sarah's diet that I've put there. That used to be, so Sarah's diet, just so you guys know, this was like early 2000s, I think, maybe late 90s. Sarah's diet was a lutein avoidance diet, which is a carotenoid. It does not break down into retinol. It's not a provitamin A carotenoid. It's a carotenoid, so it's a plant vitamin A, but it doesn't turn into retinol. And they were saying with their autistic kids, they were putting them on a low lutein diet, as low as they could get. And they were saying, I think 50% of the kids were improving, 30% kind of stayed the same, and 20% of them seemed to still get a little worse, or they just didn't improve at all. Now, one of the things that Sarah's diet, they made a big mistake. They were still giving these kids cod liver oil because they still thought that lutein was bad, but vitamin A was necessary. So you start to see where the numbers, they see 50% of them getting better. And if you look at the list of foods that they took out tons of vitamin A. I mean, it was a low vitamin A diet generally, but then they were adding back cod liver oil. So they were shooting themselves in the foot, kind of like that rice diet that certain people like to talk about. The rice diet, it was a super low vitamin A diet, but they re-added a multivitamin with 5,000 units of vitamin A. they created their own, like they inhibited their own results. So anyway, what we're seeing here is, so we want total bile acids as low as possible. They're saying as long as you're below 9.2, it's like when people have autoimmune diseases and they have antibodies. They're like, well, as long as you're below this level, you're okay. You have no disease as long as you're below this level. And people could have the disease, but their antibodies don't look that way, that the way the doctors want it. So the doctors are just like, you don't have it. But anyway, either one of these, oh, Eve said Dr. wanted her on lutein for early macular degeneration. Did not agree with her. She's not taking it. Yeah. So yeah, so they just, I mean, when I do my labs again, I'm going to get all the bile acids done again. And mine were real low. Like my total was real low because that's what it was proof of concept. We are trying to lower the bile in the blood, and we are showing that it does work. I don't do this test on everyone because it doesn't correlate directly with your perceived symptoms, because there's something like 56 bile acids that they've discovered in the blood, and they're measuring 6 of them, I think was the total. Let me look. This was the fractionated. So we have this mixture of them, cholic. So you see, if they just did cholic and they just did chenodeoxycholic and deoxycholic acid and ursodeoxycholic acid, that would be a better indicator of intrahepatic cholestasis. But they include the glycine and the taurine, which means you're getting secondary bile acids, which means you're getting extrahepatic. I know this is probably over people's head, and that's part of why I don't use these tests, because they don't give me any more information, and they do add a lot of cost to people's tests. So they don't change what I do. Yeah, so see, we have bile acids as glyco and taurochenodeoxycholic acid on the serum bile acids test. This one has glycine chenodeoxycholic acid and taurine chenodeoxycholic acid. So I guess you could take those numbers in theory and subtract them from this test. You could subtract these from these two, glycine chenodeoxycholic acid, glyco, and taurochenodeoxycholic acid. You could subtract the two, and in theory, then you'd have the free chenodeoxycholic acid. But it's still, you're actually, so technically you're only testing, you're not testing that many more bile acids. So I know that's like kind of over a lot of people's heads. I might have lost a lot of you guys along the way, but this is, sorry, I didn't share this tab. I keep switching back between tabs, and I'm watching it, and I'm thinking you guys are following along with me, and then I realize that I got to switch tabs each time. So anyway. Yeah. Gabriel, your doctor probably has no idea about bile acids anyway. So I'm not going to say that blood tests could be manipulated, but let's say somebody was going to get a blood test in the morning and they wanted their bile acids to be really high. Did we just talk about agitators earlier? So if, let's say, Gabriel, you knew there was certain things in the agitators list that we talked about that really made you feel bad. Sunlight, exercise, sweating, heat, stress of whatever type, nicotinic acid, lactoferrin, any of those things that you know you're really still quite sensitive to. Like, I would not advise going and being too intense with it, and eating a lot of fat. Eating a lot of fat dumps a lot of bile. Eating a lot of fat is how they create toxic leaky bile cholestasis in animal studies. So if somebody wanted to make their bile acids in their blood look as bad as possible, one might say there are strategies out there to do that. Manipulating tests. To work for you. That's what they should be doing. Yeah, sorry if you missed that. I was saying doctors should be working for you, trying to help you get what you want, which is health, right? But doctors these days, they're beholden to insurance companies. They're beholden to trying to make money from pharmaceuticals. See, okay. I dropped out a second time. Well, that's weird. Yeah, you're trying to get your doctor to work with you. Technically, in a certain way, you're paying them. They should work for you. And if they don't, it is up to us to figure out how to get them to help you in the way that you want to be helped. So let me go and look here. So no more light. I got to get going here pretty quick. If there's any more super chats, you better get them in quick, or we're gonna be done. I have to be done early today. I am the main chauffeur of my family now, so this is life. It's not living in Costa Rica, surfing all the time, eating organ meats. Some of us actually live in the city and have a real life. A normal life. So that's all the super chats. So let's wrap it up. So anyway, like I said, who am I again? Dr. Garrett Smith, Nutrition Detective. You can find all the links down there. Recently, I've added the things that we like, that products that I like. There's the Spurdy lamps. In the Love Your Liver program, I a UVB lamp that is quite inexpensive. If people want to try it, it's only $200, but I just posted that the other day for people who want to try it. I haven't used it. But the Spurdies are like 400, 500, 600. So if people want to try, it's a straight UVB lamp that's there. But anyway, we got Spurdy lamps down there. Spurdy's a mixed, it's UVA and UVB. Depending upon which one you pick, you just get a different thing. I went over that in my sunlight episode. We have Rome's breathwork stuff. You can detox through your breath. Yes. So if your breathing sucks, which most people's does, you can improve your detox through improving your breathing. Think of how many breaths you take a day. What if you improved your breathing by just 1%? You're detoxing that much more all day long. Then there's the EMF stuff with Sarah. Of all the stuff, it's the easiest to do. And if you tell her I sent you, or you use the link, then you get free shipping and a discount. I have it on all my stuff. I've got two of the EMF remediators, or whatever you want to call them, in my pocket right now. I wear them around with me all the time. So there's that. Kelsey, Joe put up Kelsey's store a couple of times. Obviously, we sell products at the nutritiondetective.com store. Kelsey's got her unique stuff. Lots of niacin over there in Kelsey's stuff. And then, yeah, future episodes, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. We'll definitely do a methylene blue, probably a special episode. We'll do a GERD, acid reflux, bile reflux stuff. We'll do, there was another one I was going to do. Dang. Oh, progesterone. Oh boy. We're going to show progesterone and low progesterone and high estradiol, high estrogen issues, and what causes those. And some of the people out there who push everybody should take progesterone and everybody should take thyroid, they should really pay attention, because their methods are actually why they all have to take thyroid, and why they're all taking hormones like thyroid hormone, and why their metabolism isn't where they want it. And we get people's body temps back to normal. We get people off thyroid hormone. We get people off progesterone. It's because of what we do, and it's because of what they do. that these things go so drastically different. And that's just how it is. So yeah, that's what you can look forward to in the future. I'm going to go do the inner circle now. Hope you all enjoyed that. And I will see you all next time. All the links are down there. Don't forget to subscribe and chat and leave comments. Bye, y'all.